Most different food I had was probably boshintang, the dog meat soup, because you can't have that here in the United States, and you know, it's a delicacy over there. You know, sometimes you'd be walking somewhere and a person would just start freaking out at you, saying like, oh, you're a cult, or, you know, get up in your face. And I had one time a guy like grabbed me by my lapels, and he was telling me I didn't know what I was talking about and to go home. And I just said, sir, I need to cross the street. And a lot of these students were around me, and they were going, oh my goodness, like, this guy's crazy. And then after I'd walk away, they're like, are you alright? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, thanks though. So that didn't have a lot of crazy things, but that was one of them. One day it was really hot, and the next day it was snowing. That was pretty crazy. I knew how to do dishes before my mission. Some missionaries don't. But I learned how to be like happy washing dishes or cleaning not only my stuff, but my companion or other housemates. So that was an important skill, because if you're doing that and you're kind of like begrudgingly cleaning up for them, you're not gonna really get much out of it, and you want it clean anyway. So if you have a good attitude about it, it's just even more enjoyable. Budgeting. I mean, you won't go hungry. Like, you're fine. You don't get fed by members like every night. I was with one companion, we got fed by members every night. I was with another companion where we got fed maybe every other week. But you write out the budget, and you can stay within that budget very easily. Some missionaries had impulse buys. Like, they'd be walking down the street and there's a street food and they're like, oh, I gotta try that. So budgeting is key, because you can budget in even those things like street food. You can say, all right, you know, this week I'm gonna say I get 12 bucks for spending on street food, or maybe like an ice cream right before I go home at night because it's so hot. And if I meet my goal of talking to 60 people today, I'm gonna go buy a candy bar, things like that. You budget that in. So I think budgeting is a good skill that I learned. Having lots of investigators and appointments and whatnot, and then the next week, nothing. And you're like, did I do something wrong? Like, was I not praying enough? Have I not like been reading the right scriptures? How could I have helped those investigators more? And so you kind of beat yourself up about it a little bit. And I don't know, that was tough. One time I had 17 with my companion, and then we went down really quickly. I think we ended up with 3 the next week. So, you know, just that gaining and losing investigators kind of rapidly, that's kind of tough to deal with. That was hard. When you work hard, at least in Korea, sometimes you think of the word insanity, because you're doing almost the same thing every day and expecting a different result. And it's not that it was meaningless to do the same thing. It was good. We were getting the name of the church out there. We were getting to meet new people, potential investigators. But then later, you know, when you told the ward, hopefully we have 1 or 2 investigators show up at church today, and they're like, oh, okay, like, good. And no one shows up, and you're just going, oh man, like, what happened to our investigators? And we would just have miracles all the time. There was one time it was tough, and I was trying to think of all new ideas that we could try that no one else had tried, in order to find new investigators or visit less actives. And we thought people were coming to church, they didn't show up, and then we went up to a different class for the second hour, and then member comes in and says, "Hey, I think one of your investigators here." And we get all excited, walk down, and we have no idea who the person is. And, you know, he and his mom just wanted to learn more about the church, and mom wanted him to learn English, and it became a miracle, and he later got baptized. So I think that by hard work and patience, I saw the most spiritual experiences on my mission. One time, like I was talking about earlier about the like low form and high form, there was a guy in his probably 50s or 60s, so obviously he's my elder, I should use high form. And I said just a few sentences of low form, thinking I had said everything right. And he just started yelling at me because I wasn't respecting my elders, and I was just going, "Man, I really wish I knew what you were saying to me. I can just tell you're angry with me." I was pretty new, and so I guess I got by. But that was pretty interesting. Messing up saying a word, and then later you find out you accidentally swore at someone, and you're like, and you didn't tell them I was sorry, or things like that. Or colloquial things, like for example, to say I'm full, you say my stomach is singing. And the word excuse me, 실례합니다. And I thought that was like, oh, excuse me, like pardon me kind of thing. And one time I was on the subway and it was really packed, and I had to get off at the next stop, so I'm like trying to get through, and I'm like, 실례합니다, and no one's moving, and I'm just like, oh man, like, maybe I gotta say it louder, I'm not saying it right. And a missionary bumps me, he goes, "Are you saying this?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, no. That's like, excuse me, like if you burp or something like that." He's like, if you're wanting to get by someone, you say 잠깐만요, which is translate to one moment. So you're just walking by people going, one moment. And they're like just moving out of their way so you can get through. I got home and my dad goes, "Well, how are you going to pay for college?" And I said, "Well, I'll probably have to get a job." And he's like, "Okay." And so he recommended I get a job quickly. I ended up getting 2 full-time jobs fairly quickly, and just worked a lot because where I was from, you know, I had my friend group that I had, from moving around so much, I didn't know them really all that much, but I had a small friend group, and I was the first one to leave, which meant I was the first one back, meaning no one else my age was there. So I made work my life, and I worked, and if I didn't work, I was at home, you know, helping around the house. So keeping busy, but at the same time, before I left, you have your interview with your mission president, and he gave me this paper and said, you know, you got to write goals for all these different things, and short-term, long-term. How are you going to stay a missionary after your mission? So those goals: reading scriptures, exercising daily, you know, oh, I'm going to study the language for this much every single day after the mission, when in reality you get back and you're like, no one speaks this language, how am I going to like keep it up? And you know, you find ways to do stuff like that. So set goals on the mission for after the mission and stick to them. So have fun, stay busy, and keep to your goals. Maybe find something to learn.